Hey y'all, I'm CB, the No BS welder here at NBS Welding. Here we are on video 3 of the modification on Paul's trailer, and we're going to be doing the side standards and the front and rear standards. And there's a couple things mentioned before in the other videos about it, but we'll go over the basic ideas. He's got these nice standards that he bought, made to go in the pockets here. Considering that there's going to be a side going down through each side, and then where you have this pocket right here, there's going to be a front, and then down here a back. Obviously we're 4 pockets shy. That's all right. Paul's already thought of that, and he bought 4 extra pockets. So what I've got them here, let's take a look. See, if you're going to have a wall, removable wall in standards going in right here, you're going to have another one here for your side. Another thing I mentioned to Paul when we talked about doing this, some way here at the corner, I would want to make it so that the front and the side pins together or does some way of connection. That would be important at the corner to, you know, if you had a pin or a bolt or something you could put in there to stiffen that up. One thing I went over with Paul is about how these things are 4 feet high, and 4 feet, man, it's really high. And I was thinking maybe we'd want to cut them down, and I sent him a video actually, and went over some of my ideas on it, and he came back with his ideas, and what he's wanting is 40 inches. So there is going to be 8 inches cut off of these. So that's the way we're going to do that, and we're going to be running 3 2-inch channels, evenly spaced, which I'm going to do the first channel at 5 inches. I got it on that block right now. That's a little low. I want to make a little more room than that because I want to be able to operate these and flip them out of the way. It needs a little more room than that, than what I got with that 4x4. I think the 5-inch gap at the bottom would be good. But the reason I got that wooden block and that wooden block and that piece of channel up there, I was doing a test to see if we'd have enough room and enough slack to get this in and out of there, even with the fender there. And what we're seeing is that that's no problem at all. Another thing that I'm glad that Paul had mentioned to me is he was thinking maybe at some point he might be bolting plywood inside of these standards. And I'm glad he mentioned that because I may have put these channels up there this way. See, if I'd have put them up there this way and you'd have bolted plywood to the inside, when you tightened your bolts against those 2 flanges, it would break the plywood instead of getting tight. If there's a chance that we're going to be bolting plywood in here, then this channel needs to be this way with the legs out. And that's no problem to do that now that I know, and I see that this is the way we would want the standard, because I can weld across the top and bottom of that, and that'll be plenty strong. So gonna be getting going on making these four panels, 4 removable panels, and I'll get back and show you how that's going. All right, well, fabbed up that front section and stuck it up there. It fit nice. I'm liking it. Like I talked about before, I was thinking of going about 10 inches shorter than this, but I wasn't thinking of the plywood. And so, you know, I'm going to say again, I'm really glad that I checked with Paul about the height. Making this shorter would make it a lot stiffer. You see how it, it's got that wobble, but if that plywood's on there, I don't think that would be taking place. I think that plywood will help on that being kind of flimsy. Making it shorter would make it stiffer, but putting the plywood on it is going to make it stiffer too. And I realized something too. When I was in the toolbox getting stuff like Paul's winch and, the other things, there's a whole bunch of bolts in there. There's one great big bag full of bolts, and I was like, what are all these bolts for? And now I'm realizing he bought those bolts to bolt the plywood on. He hasn't asked me to do that. It sounds like he's going to take care of that. I just realized that he's really thought about this. He's got, like I said, just about everything you need to do it. He had everything. The only thing I've put into it is that aluminum bracing for the ramps in video 1. And, I don't think Paul was planning on that being that elaborate, but I think it needed it. So anyway, I got that front section, and I think I'm going to go ahead on to the sides. The way I'm doing these sides, you really start out with just the dimensions. And to help, start you out getting them square, I have a measurement from the end to the first standard, then to the next standard, to the next standard. That one's just there to hold it up in place. And then this standard would be the last one. And it's backwards. It needs turned 180. This actually goes at the back. I made a little jig. This piece of flat bar is the width of a standard. And that little saw nick right there is the center. So when I laid out the center to center mark and put that up there and then make a mark on each side of the flat bar, see, you would want that top and bottom to look at it. So if you line all those things up, you're getting pretty close to being square. Then you're going to take your tape measure on something like this and you're going to measure corner to corner. When you're building a frame that has the same dimension this way and the same dimension that way, and you measure across it this way and you measure across it that way, when you get the same dimension across it, it's square. And on something like this, what you can do that squares you up really fast is you measure across one way. Like on this, I measured across from corner to corner on these channels, and I got 183 and 3/16 plus. Well, I measured the other way, corner to corner, and I got 183 and 5/16 plus. And when I say plus, that means it was in between two of the 16ths. I don't speak in 30 seconds. I speak in plus. But if you got 183 and 3/16 plus one way and 183 and 5/16 plus the other, then the dimension that you need is 183 and 1/8 plus. So when you got two clamps on the one side there to hold it, like I've got right there, and then you got a way to clamp this side, you run your tape corner to corner and you force it with your hand until you get that 183 and 1/8 plus, and then clamp it down, check it the other way, and you'll find that it's perfect. It's a really quick and easy way to square something up, but in order for that cross dimension to be correct, your size needs to be accurate. And in order to get started, get a decent start on having it square, your soapstone marks dimensionally all need to be pretty good. The fact that I've got these marks, the fact that I've got those marks to where, you know, you're putting everything together on those marks, that gets you started pretty square. You know, you're dimensionally, you're correct. And then you can measure across. This thing's ready to weld up. And yeah, let's do that. Got the other side up there. Fitting those 3 pockets there good. No problem setting it in there. I didn't bother putting this pocket on. It, you know, make more sense to go ahead and get this up there and clamp it and then put this on. The one thing I'd want to say about this, when you're welding on the side of one of these trailers, don't forget there's light wires in there. If we get up under here, you want to get up under here and check. There is a light wire running right behind here. And what I did, I just took my fingers. It's gonna be, I got it pulled where, see if I stick my hand back here, it's far enough away that getting this channel hot's not gonna burn that wire. But now you'll run into times, and don't ask me how I know, but you'll run into times where something like a wire will be clamped right over against the channel, and man, if you weld on it, you can burn that sucker right in two. Like I said, don't ask me how I know that, but I can just tell you, if you can avoid that, it'll be a whole lot more gooder if you don't burn the wires up. It's really been hot, uncommonly hot. I have these little spells every once in a while. You see Ralph, like, that's what he's been doing. That's what the heat does to him. My buddy that I'm doing his trailer for, my new friend Paul, he met Ralph when he was here. And him and Ralph they was instant buddies. Ralph's kind of weird. Like, he doesn't like most people patting him and stuff too much. He's kind of weird about that. But Paul and Anita both, like, Ralph took right to him. My buddy Paul, he's a mechanic. Like I said, he's a mechanic at the Port of Virginia, and he's a member of Union Local 970, International Longshoremen's Association. And the other day I was texting with Anita, and Anita told me that she was going to get with him. I was asking for some information about the trailer, she said she'd get with him, but she knew that right at the moment he was elbow deep in a reach stacker. And when I got that text, I automatically assumed that a reach stacker was a piece of equipment that Paul was working on. But then I'm standing here thinking, I've been working on equipment for 40 years, and I don't know what a reach stacker is. And I say, thank God for the power of Google. Yeah, I Googled it. So it didn't take too long to realize why I never worked on a reach stacker. That's something you would only have near the shore there, where he's at. And it appeared to be mechanically very similar to a telehandler. Now, I'm very familiar with a telehandler. Looks similar. But a reach stacker that would handle those containers like that they stack up those shipping containers. That's not something, probably not a lot of those exist in the interior, you know. That's just something you're going to see if you're near the shore. So we'll catch up on where we left off. You know, I did get that pocket welded on, and I did it without burning any wires. So that completed this side. And since then, pretty much through the same process, built the other side and the rear section. So now it really looks like we've got a corral. It is what it reminds me of. It looks like, you know, we could raise some livestock inside of this thing. A little bit of the fabrication work that I think is critical on something like this is, like I said, you'd want to do something that creates a way to pin the corners together. And I want to show you what I did on that. Right here we've got some 1-inch tubing and 5/8 inch round bar. This is a good fit for something like this. You know, if you've got a 1x1 that's a 1/8 inch wall square tube, then your inside diameter of your square tube is pretty much 3/4 of an inch. But I don't think you'd want a 3/4 inch pin in there. You're not going to want to go get a hammer and beat this thing in and out of there. You know, you just leave it long enough at the bottom that it's sticking down through there that it can't bounce out. And, you know, the 5/8 and a 3/4 is going to give you enough slack. It's tight enough, you know, it's going to support it, but it's giving it enough slack that you don't have to beat it together with a hammer. And then, of course, you're going to have some paint and maybe a little corrosion. And the way I did this with this angle iron, I tell you, when you drop a pin in a tube like this, if you weld around it, the weld will hold it up a little bit and sometimes get stuck in the tubing. If you put something on like I've done here, it's a good idea to plug weld it. You see, I drilled a hole in the angle iron and plug welded through that hole. And the way I did this with the angle iron makes it so that it kind of finishes the corner off a little bit. It's a little bit nicer than just dropping a pin in it. Another way I've had a little bit of issue with those is if you take the round bar and you heat it and bend it 90 degrees, right there where it's bent, sometimes it'll try to get stuck in the top. So that's not the nicest thing to do either. But this looks like it's going to work real well. You know, if that got lost, you know, you just drop a 5/8 bolt in it or whatever, you could make it work. Another thing that information that I got from Paul through messaging back and forth, I had asked him what if he wanted me to paint the bare metal on this, and he does. I don't know if I mentioned before, I think I mentioned before that he had told me that he had thoughts about bolting plywood inside of this channel. Now, I told him I'd do that if he wanted me to, and he said we'll see where we're at on the labor when I get done fabricating and painting, and he might get me to do that and he might not. So that decision is yet to be made, and I'm fine with it either way. You know, I told him, I was kind of joking with him. I said, I'll do whatever. I said, I'll check the tire pressure and repack the wheel bearings with grease if you want me to. I don't care. I mean, I charge the same for my time no matter what I do. It's like I heard military guys say before, fighting pays the same as marching, and marching pays the same as fighting. That's kind of the way I look at it. I don't care. Whatever it is, I do all sorts of work, and I'm good with it. So the next thing here that we're going to get into on fabrication, Paul had wanted some extra bars on the side where you could tie things down to just about anywhere you wanted. And I'll show you what he had for it. He got this 3/8 by 1.5" flat bar, and that's a good flat bar to do that with. And what he's thinking, got a few pieces of it. What he's thinking of having is flat bars run alongside of these standards, you know, pretty much the length of the trailer. So it would run from the front pocket probably to the fender, and then from the fender to the rear pocket. Now, back here in the back, that's pretty much a matter of just fitting on the piece and welding. I don't know about right here. I think I told Paul that is a considerable span. If you were to take a good size ratchet strap and put in the center of there, you know, you're going to have quite a span, and the metal might not hold like you want it to. So what I'm thinking is, on these bigger spans, like right here, we'll just run a piece of something steel from the flat bar back to the trailer and weld it. So that's what's up next, and I think that'll finish off the fabrication on this. So let's get going with it. It being hot like this just reminded me of years ago, back when I was drinking. One of my buddies come here and we was sitting here drinking beer. I got a buddy, Nathan, he's a stonemason. He went to trade school for masonry work, and it's the only it's like me with my welding, you know, it's the only thing he's ever done. And he's in a real good position with a company. But years ago, he stopped by here after a hot day laying block, and me and him was in the shop here. We was drinking beer that evening, and his laborers was at a bar in Morgantown, West Virginia, and they cooked up a plan, and they rung Nathan up on the cell phone and was asking him about it because he was in charge. And they said that they were thinking, since it was so hot, they were wanting to come in an hour earlier tomorrow and maybe get out of an hour of the heat, which, you know, they're not going to do, because they're going to sit there at the bar and get drunk, and you're lucky if they show up on time to begin with, let alone an hour early. But anyway, they wanted to ask Nathan about coming in an hour early, you know, starting at 7 a.m. instead of 8 a.m. like they normally do. And Nathan said, look, if you guys want to come in an hour early and start getting things laid out, the telehandler full of block and mud mixed up, that's fine with me. But Nathan said, I'm telling you right now, Tudor's Biscuit World at Medbrook don't open there until 7 a.m. And this old boy don't lay no damn blocks until I've had my breakfast. That's what Nathan told him. Nathan's a good old boy. Redheaded guy. I call him a redheaded rock stacker. He's one of the best. But anywho, I put this one bar on here. Let's take a look at it. Now, one of the things you could have done is you could have run this over and tied it into the fender. And I'll tell you, I decided not to do that. Just, these fenders are kind of thin, for one thing. So welding that to that fender, if you did pull on it real hard, I'd hate to have that tear that fender. And the other thing is, you do have accidents where the fender needs to be replaced. I've replaced them before. You know, the thing is, like these fenders, if you do a little boo-boo and you mess these fender up, they're available. You can get one usually shaped like yours or close enough. Sometimes you got to buy two of them and just go ahead and replace them both. But you can cut the fenders off and get other fenders on. So they probably, you know, I don't think he's going to lose that much in area to hook up stuff by not doing that to that fender. I just tied it right back into the frame right there. And what I used in the middle where I was concerned about that span, see, that's a long ways for that size bar. If you were hooked in the middle of it, I think there'd be, you know, maybe more flex than you wanted. I just put a 5/8 round bar welded in there. And of course you could hook to that too. And everything, welded everything up and checked to make sure the wires weren't contacting the frame there on the other side. Some of these will be a little bit different. Obviously, the one in the back, I think more than anything, the one in the back is going to want to be, I'll have it as long as I can make it, and maybe bring it back tied in and come this way, bring it back tied in. Those short bars are already cut, so they look like, I didn't measure that to tell you how long it is, but whatever length is there is, we're going to make that work. And this one over here, I've taken the spare tire off. This one will be a little bit different, but no problem. Actually, I won't need a 5/8 round bar in the middle of here, because I can run this one right to here and just weld it to the spare tire rack. He was saying I could move that spare tire rack if I wanted to, and I said, well, I don't see why you'd need to. It should be fine. It's actually, you know, something to tie that bar into so it won't be weak by spanning from there all the way to there. And then I can put a little round bar here, stiffen that up between those two. So we're gonna keep going here on these flat bars, and we'll see how that turns out. That one right there is the one that I did on camera, and we can take a look at how I did the rest of them. The one in the back here, you see I brought it around where it just ties back in, which obviously this one over here is the same way. But the other one, where the spare tire rack is up here, it's a little bit different, but same idea. The only difference is right here, it welds to that. So that's it for the side rails. That's all welded up. And since I'm going to be painting on this, the next thing is going to be a little bit of prep work for that. There's some blistering where there was already flat black paint, although the trailer's gloss black. There was already flat black paint on these standards when he got them. And you can see where I welded on them, there's blistering on the other side. So these are spots that you'd want to hit with a power brush. So we'll be doing that. And then we'll get some paint on this bare metal. We'll have to, I'm going to leave the spare tire off. I stuck it on the back there where I'm not going to be painting. We're going to have to take the toolbox back off. I'll pull those pins out of there, and we'll paint the pins on the angle iron separate. And that's going to be the next thing, is putting paint on the bare metal and trying not to get paint on stuff that we don't want to. Here's an updatification of the current situation. I've been painting. Paul wanted me to put some paint on this stuff, and these parts, the walls, I sprayed all this. I sprayed this with my air gun. Had somebody ask me not too long ago in one of the comments, it was one of the jobs where I had done some painting, and they said, when you paint stuff, do you spray it or do you brush it on? And I felt like saying, yeah. I spray, I brush, I roll. I have an electric pump sprayer, an airless. So just about every way you can apply paint, I apply it. For example, where I touched up the paint here on the trailer, I did this with a 4-inch nappy roller, one of the smaller hot dog sized rollers. And if you spray in an area like this, then you gotta say, well, do I want to get paint on that light and on them reflectors and on that license plate and all over the wood? Nah, you don't want to do that. And the roller with when you're doing something like a trailer, this ain't a car. We're not doing body work here. The roller does a nice job. And if you get a decent, I use a lot of Rust-Oleum. If you get a decent gloss black, or you get a decent quality oil-based paint on something like this, a lot of them brush and roller marks will just smooth right out as it dries, and it looks fine. So I painted the toolbox rack with the same kind of a roller. All this stuff got 2 coats. You can do 2 coats with the roller. In there where I used the spray with air, that's actually 4 coats of paint, and that's how air is. When you're spraying it, that's how spraying is. You can't put it on as thick, and you'll have to do more coats. It's faster to apply. You can probably say that it's quicker, but the thing with this, if you look at the shape of it, where you got to get paint down into here in this channel, you know, and down into, you got holes, trying to get around a tube like this and stuff. Your air gun's gonna paint that and get down in there pretty good on that. And I do sometimes use spray cans. Spray cans are really handy, but let me tell you, do some math if you've got much painting to do. I do math in the store with my calculator in my phone quite a lot on things. I'll calculate out when I'm buying hardware, you know, how much do you save if you buy, you know, say you need 9 bolts and they got a pack of, they got them sold individually, or they got a pack of 25 and you only need 9. I'll check the pack of 29 price per bolt before I buy 9 single bolts. You got to watch, you know, if it's a good value, you might be better off to go ahead and get more than you need, depending on how they're selling it. I'll tell you, with paint, where I buy Rust-Oleum paint, which is generally my local Lowe's, if you buy a 15-ounce spray can, that's one of the big size spray cans, you're paying about 66 to 68 cents an ounce for that paint. If you buy that gloss black paint in a gallon, you're going to get that paint for, I think, about 36 or 38 cents an ounce. But now that's a savings. But that paint, the 15 ounces of paint that's in that spray can, more than half of that is thinner. So if you work it out and you say, well, I'm going to thin my paint with acetone, which is what Rust-Oleum recommends you thin it with. If you want to save even more money, you can thin it with gasoline. It works fine. It just dries really, really slow. But let's just say you're doing it right and you're thinning with acetone. Acetone's 17 cents an ounce. So you're getting paint, instead of paying 68 cents an ounce, you're getting paint for like 36 or 38 cents an ounce. And then when you go to paint something, 50%, if you're spraying it with an air gun, 50% of what you're spraying should probably be acetone, which is 17 cents an ounce. So you're talking about, there's a big difference. And I'm not saying I don't use spray cans, but I just say you got to watch it, because if you were to paint something as big as this with spray cans, boy, you're really spending some money on paint. Looky here at all this doozing we got done. This thing all painted up, she's looking sexy. Those 4 sides in there, I keep thinking of a corral. It looks like a corral. Maybe Paul raised some pigs or something on this trailer. That aluminum looks good on those ramps, making them ramps smooth. Got this extra tie down bar. You can tie down, strap down anywhere you want. Toolbox on there, got the winch installed. Now, Paul had mentioned that whenever I got done everything on the list, which I think I'm at that point right now, he said, as far as that plywood, he might have me install the plywood. We'd just see how much he was into the labor at that point. Something that was interesting, just out of curiosity, I looked on Lowe's in Buckhannon, West Virginia. Sheet of plywood's $54 and something. In Virginia Beach, it's $48. I thought that was something. Plywood's that much cheaper there at the shore. But anyway, I don't know if I'm going to be doing that, but everything on the list here is done, so I'll be getting with Paul. Be getting with Paul and letting him know that he's got a little bit of material left there. So that's it for this one. It was a really good trailer modification. I appreciated this job, especially because it came from so far away and it came from a viewer. I think it turned out really good. I'm tickled to death with it. I want to thank y'all for watching. Remember, learn how to work with what you got. That way you always have everything you need. Hey y'all, CB here in the break room at NBS Welding. I'm hollering at you about the NBS Welding t-shirts. We've still got NBS Welding t-shirts with the NBS Welding on the front, big NBS Welding on the back. We have had a lot of orders so far, which a lot for us doesn't take that much, but we got the American flag right here on the sleeve. We do still have t-shirts. It helps the channel if you buy a t-shirt. If you think you'd like to have an NBS Welding t-shirt, please get a hold of us. Send Tina an email request to nbswelding@aol.com. We have had some people order t-shirts, and of course we want to give the shout out and the thanks for helping the channel by ordering a t-shirt. And we have got a lot of compliments. These are good quality shirts. People have mentioned that they're good quality shirts. They're comfortable and everybody likes them. Haven't got any complaints at all on the t-shirts that we mailed out. So $25 plus shipping for a t-shirt. And if you send an email request to Tina, nbswelding@aol.com, and she'll figure out where you're at, and she can figure out what it's going to cost to ship it to you, and we'll get it done. All right? So thank you.